What's up, Domino community? I'm Lily Hevish, and today I'll be teaching you how to build numbers. So get your dominoes and let's start building. Welcome to part 1 of my tutorial series where you'll learn how to build numbers in Dominoes. In this first video, I will demonstrate how to build a 0 and a 1 and how to connect them all together. Now for this example, I'll be building Disney 100 based on the build guide from my H5 Domino Creations Disney set. So I have 200 dominoes with me, but depending on how large you want to make this, you might not need to use all 200, so the size will vary. Step 1 is to make the outline using flat dominoes. So I'm going to use these teal dominoes and just trace out a 0 using flat dominoes like this. And something that you can do to keep the shape is use more dominoes as a measurement tool. So I'm going to take these 3 dominoes and just move them like this. I think I'm going to make a diameter of about 3 domino heights for this example. And then once I have the top and bottom of the 0, then I can just very easily move over our measurement tool like that and place the dominoes on the opposite side and then rotate it over again so we get the dominoes in between, and make sure this is all even and centered. And by making the outline first before actually setting up the dominoes, it's really easy to change the shape if we need to in case something looks a bit off. Just keep an eye on it. If you want to move any of the dominoes to keep the shape, feel free to adjust as needed. And if you want to make the 0 more oval-like, all you have to do is just narrow it and move the dominoes in. All right, I think this looks pretty good. I'm just gonna replicate the 0 on the other side, and in the Disney 100 logo, you'll see that the zeros are touching. So I'm gonna put this domino flat and put it right against the one that I already built. And again, I'll use my 3 domino height measurement in between all of the dominoes. And I'm just gonna check the shape, make sure that all of these zeros look similar and they're all symmetric. Next, I'm gonna make the outline of a 1. And this is super easy in dominoes. I'm just gonna start out by making a line of flat dominoes like this. And I'm gonna make the distance between the 1 and the 0 1 domino height apart. And that will sort of ensure that there's enough room in between each number and nothing is going to interfere with one another. If you build the numbers a bit too close, depending on how you topple it, it could knock over by accident or too early. So it's always a good idea to keep a little bit of space in between each number. And I'm just gonna make sure that the bottom of this 1 is in line with the 0, and same thing with the top. It's kind of up to you how you want to style the 1. You could just leave it as a straight line, or you could add like a little part on the top going out. After you've made the full outline and you're happy with the shape, we're going to replace all the flat dominoes with upright standing dominoes. So I can just very carefully replace like this. I'll do the top portion and then the sides and then the dominoes in between. And from here, you can kind of see the shape of the 0. So if you do need to adjust anything, you can move the dominoes and just kind of shift it over to where you like the shape. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. And I'm just gonna make sure that this domino right here is touching the one on the other side. And from here, you can keep filling it in. Spacing is super important, so just make sure that the distance between dominoes is between 1 domino thickness and 1 centimeter maximum. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And one tip when you're making a turn or any kind of circle is to sort of trace the inner side and outer side of your line to make sure that it's a smooth arc. I wouldn't, for example, have a domino like this or like that because that breaks the line of the arc. So just kind of make sure that the short side of the domino sort of connects to the corner of the domino next to it. And now I'm going to continue building the dominoes inside. Just be aware of the spacing and make sure everything looks consistent. Awesome, this looks great. I'm just going to check it from the overhead, make sure that these zeros look good. They're all the same size. It seems like this could move in a little bit more, so I'm going to just shift these dominoes really slightly. Now that we have the zeros down, we could start building the 1. And I'm gonna start by building this straight domino line and just replacing the flat dominoes with upright dominoes. And again, just make sure the spacing is no more than 1 centimeter. It can be helpful to look at the dominoes from this angle facing the line so that you can see exactly if a domino is out of place or if the line is becoming uneven. I'm gonna just adjust the spacing so that the bottom of the 1 can line up with the bottom of the 0. Perfect. And next, all we have to do is build the little stem for the 1. So I'm going to start by putting a domino halfway in between the 2 dominoes at the top. And then we can replace the flat domino with a domino that just angles very slightly coming off of this domino that's halfway. We don't want it to be too far of an angle, otherwise it might not work, because we want to make sure there's enough contact that this domino that's halfway will be able to fully topple the one in front of it. And from here, you can make the stem as long as you want. So I'm going to add another domino and just very slightly angle it again. And the final step is to connect it all. I'm going to use these gray dominoes to connect everything, and I always recommend, if you can, use a different color to connect it than you use in your actual text. This will make it a lot easier to read, so you don't get confused with the connection lines versus the actual numbers or letters. To connect these zeros, it's super easy. Because the zeros are already touching, all we have to do is place one domino in the middle of the two lines to connect them. And to connect the 1 and 0, I'm going to place a domino halfway at the bottom of the first 0. And from here, we just have to connect the bottom of the 1 to this gray domino. So I'm going to make a domino turn and just angle the domino very slightly and make sure that the angle of these dominoes isn't too big. Ideally, at least 4 angled dominoes in a 90-degree curve. So for example, if this was my 90-degree curve, 1, 2, 3, 4 of these are angled. So from here, we can just continue making the line. Now just make sure that the domino that's closest to this halfway domino is aligned, so it's also halfway from this gray domino to the next gray domino. Perfect. So to topple this, we're going to knock it down at the top of the 1. This is going to fall downward, and then the connecting line will trigger the 0, which then triggers the other 0 in the opposite direction. Let's see if it works. 3, 2, 1, go. It worked! That was a super cool topple. Now in part 2 of this video, I will cover how to build even more numbers. So in case that's up, you can watch it right over here. And if you need more dominoes, just visit hevesh5.com/buydominoes to get all of my H5 domino creation sets. I want to give a big thank you to Spin Master for partnering with me to make these dominoes possible. And I also want to give a shout out to our featured community member, Maximal Fun, who just started making videos. So please go support them on their domino journey. And as always, I'm Lily Hevesh, and keep on building.